Welcome back to the ICRA exclusive podcast. My name is John. I'm your host for today over here on the team at Remodel Health. We are absolutely committed to making sure that all of our listeners have the very best content around benefits for employees. So whether you're a broker working with an employer or you're that employer that is actually wanting to give that benefit, or maybe you're a carrier or you're an employee, no matter what, today's episode is very special to help you learn around the topic of professional development. Professional development is something I've seen a lot on my LinkedIn feed and in the news, and I'm excited to personally learn. We've got a great agenda ahead of us with a very special guest. Before I get to introducing our guest today, I want to point you to our website. We have so many resources, whether it's videos or other podcasts, articles, ebooks, you name it, zero cost to consumer learning resources at remodelhealth.com. Yeah, it's that easy. Go there, download something, make sure that you take advantage of everything we are trying to provide to you so we can learn better together. Now, for my introduction today, I want to introduce you to someone I actually consider a friend. This is Kristen Campbell, Executive Programs Director at Edge Mentoring. And I know that Remodel Health personally has had lots of wonderful involvement with our own team members growing and becoming better because of everything Kristen and the team over at Edge have done. But Kristen, thank you so much for joining the show today. It's wonderful to have you.
John, it's my pleasure. Anytime I get a chance to chat with you, it's a good day, my friend.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm really looking forward to getting into how we can boost employee productivity and company growth and providing, some of your own personal insight for advancing your own professional journey and how brokers and employers can do that for themselves. But before we get into the meat of our content today, I would love to just know a little bit more of you. How did you get into this and what makes you passionate about getting out of bed every day and going to work, helping other people out?
Oh, I love that question. Well, I've actually spent the last 10 plus years creating spaces for people to feel seen, heard, and known. And I've done that primarily through coaching work, mental health education, and health and wellness consulting. And so that's my personal mission. And so I have seen firsthand through that work that across every demographic, when an individual is given the space to be self reflective, self aware, and they have a really supportive community around them that challenges them, that champions them onto greatness, it changes the way that they show up in the world. So that spirit gets me out of bed every morning, as well as my young kiddos that get me out of bed every morning. So that is my personal mission. And 3 years ago, I was able to combine that with a professional mission as well. And so to me, when my passions and my skills collide, boom, magic. Just like what you're doing, John. When your passions and your skills collide, and they certainly have, there's something beautiful on the other end of that. So that's a little bit about me. At Edge, we are in the people business. So everything we do revolves around this foundational belief that we believe people were made to be in relationships. We believe they're made to be in relationships with God and with others. So our product is people. And we're living in a time right now, John, where we've never been more accessible yet disconnected from each other. Loneliness is epidemic proportions. We're living where it's so easy to be independent. I think about the phrase, it takes a village. And certainly when I became a parent, I was like, it does take a village. But that used to mean people, right? It used to mean like your church community, your aunts, your uncles. And it's now kind of transitioned into like automatic services. Like my village is now DoorDash. It's my Amazon delivery. It's Target. It's Venmo. It's all of that. So we're lonely, we're disconnected, and we're just lost. We're in desperate need of a guide, and we're coming up short when Google and when TikTok, the two main places people now go to find information and truth, can't answer our problems or can't walk us through that next life transition. And so for the past 8 years, Edge really has been on a mission to change that. So what we do is we create generation changing leaders who transform their relationships, their organizations, and their communities through the power of whole person development. And I'll talk a little bit later about what that means. But to date, we've had over 1,400 people experience our mentoring program. and 500 people graduate from our leadership development program. And we feel like we are just getting started. The world that we are trying to create is a beautiful one, and we're eager to continue to do the work.
Yeah, I absolutely love what Edge is doing. I've seen the results in my own team, and I've
Mhm.
been very grateful for the way I've seen that development happen. Now, you have already stirred up the pot here to help us to understand there are multiple buckets of development, and I'm very excited about hearing more about each of these. Let's first talk about professional development and its connection to productivity. Can you first start by what you would define as professional development and then talk about the way that increases productivity versus just managing somebody better? Talk
Sure.
about what is professional development? How does it help that employee actually produce more?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that we look at professional development here at Edge really are what are the skill sets? What's the roadmap? What do you need in order to really kind of lay a solid foundation, primarily in the workplace or as you lead others? Now we recognize that we are always leading and influencing. We first start with ourselves, and then hopefully once we've got that not mastered, but once we've got that down a little bit, then we're able to better lead others. But professional development really is kind of that silo. It's that space where, as you're thinking about, your organization, as you're thinking about people that you are responsible for that fall under your care, what are the skill sets? What's the communication style? What's the mindset? And what's the approach that you need to show up with in order to be as effective as a leader as possible?
Wow. Now, can you give me one of your favorite stories of this in the works? Because I think we hear information all the time, but stories really help us to make sense of all the data we're hearing about. So, give me one of your favorite stories, Kristen. I'm sure you got plenty, but just pick that top one that comes to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you my story because it's the one I know the best. So I actually looked 10 years to find a female mentor, and I was specifically looking for a woman that was a wife, was a mom, because at the time I wasn't either. I specifically wanted a woman that was accelerating in her career, and I wanted her belief systems to match my own. And so I had this framework for what I was looking for. And I went to every male mentor I had and I said, "Hey, can you recommend somebody like this?" And you would have thought I was asking, "Hey, can you find me a unicorn?" Because unfortunately, nobody could recommend a woman to me. And so I'm sitting in my place of work. It's 2020. I'm in a leadership team meeting, John. Mind you, I'm not on the leadership team. I think I was probably there just to take notes, or maybe there was an extra seat and it needed to be filled. But as I'm sitting, I'm hearing the former CEO of Edge Mentoring talk about this leadership development program. And there are three main objectives at the time of it. They wanted to give millennials, so those born between kind of 1980 and 1996, they wanted to give millennials more opportunities to step into positions of leadership and really wanting to help sharpen their skills. They wanted to really elevate women and individuals from minority groups into more leadership positions. And they wanted to connect more women to women coaches and mentors. So what do you think I did, John? It was like an out of body experience. My hand goes up and I say, "What you just described is exactly what I've been looking for. Can I volunteer to go through this program?" And so my company was super gracious. Edge was super gracious. I mean, when you have somebody saying like, "Hey, what you're looking for is me," there could be right no better arrangement. I got connected to my first female mentor and a group of peers. And when I tell you that it was laying a foundation that I didn't even know I needed, our group launched March of 2020. I was 7 months pregnant with our first child, and I was getting ready to enter remote work that I had never done before, parenthood that I had never done before, and doing them both at the same time because childcare was not an option. And so, as we talk about, this whole person, but if we're looking at just kind of professional development without feeling like my organization is working as hard for me as I am for them, I guarantee it probably would have changed how I view them. And this kind of a personal riff, but I really do believe that as we're talking about maybe like productivity or efficiency, what people really just want to know is, hey, are you as bought in, organization? Are you as bought in as I am bought into you? Right? Because as we are spending the majority of our waking hours putting forth maybe somebody else's goals we want to make sure, hey, are we in this together? Is there that partnership? So that's my own personal story, and we're gonna maybe go into like how that came to be and risk versus reward. But yeah, I've certainly seen where when there's access and there's opportunity, if you've got like 5 seconds of courage, it can be pretty powerful.
You're starting to connect the dots already for us, and I appreciate that. Being in the benefit space, I've seen that employees who have better benefits packages, they just enjoy being at work more. They enjoy working alongside their teammates more. They enjoy going the extra mile when it's needed to help out the company. And that's a very big deal. You've also mentioned a little bit of generational content here as far as millennials. We're seeing Gen Zs equally, if not more so, believe that it's an important thing to keep growing as a person. And so, if we're going to connect the dots for anyone who's perhaps skeptical on the outside or just wanting to learn more, that when someone feels like you just shared, that the company is just as bought into them as an employee as they are with the company, they're going to do more. They're going to do their best and they're going to keep getting better. And so I appreciate all of that. Now, you just gave out this great moment where you as an employee, you're sitting there and you hear about this opportunity, this benefit to grow and have this professional development. I want to help a broker out there who might want to be able to know more, that they can give data to an employer that they're working with. If that employer is asking what's next on benefits that I need to look at, they can say professional development, you need to get into this. But that's pretty ambiguous. It's kind of hard to know what to do. How do I pick and choose what I'm offering, who I'm offering it to?
Yeah.
Break down some of the simple steps that you would give to, again, a broker that's going to consult with an employer, or even employers listening. How do you start professional development as a benefit as an employer?
Yeah. So, fun fact, I actually served in the employee benefit space for 5 years. So, I worked with clients, specifically got on the health and wellness side. And the first thing that I would always say to them, and I'll say to you all, is when we say it's a benefit, it's only a benefit if your people think it's a benefit. Right. And so that's where we first have to start with, as an organization, what do people within your organization, what do they want? And what did they consider to be a benefit? So as we look at like what makes up each organization, there are some generational things. There are some unique things. Where are you located? What's access like to childcare? What are some things that people continuously keep bringing up? So I think the first thing you do, if you're a broker and you are talking to your clients, are what do people say that they need? Where is there a gap? Like, what are some ways that you really are trying to specifically help bring a benefit to your people? So I think that's where it all starts, because what we've certainly seen from research is there's a big disconnect between kind of what organizations maybe think people want and what they actually want. And the best way to know what people actually want is to ask them and then to do something afterwards, right? So as we look at the data, what we know is globally, I think about 20% of employees are engaged at work. So we know that that's a really low number. We know that when employees are disengaged, they're not productive. They're looking for places to go elsewhere. That leads to high turnover costs. So then it goes back to, just recruitment and retention. And so as we look at, okay, what are some things that brokers can do? One, talk to your clients. What do they need? What are the gaps? And then you start to figure out how can we kind of commit to taking action, right? So how can we look at the needs, look at what people want to do, and then where could we go from there? And it could be something as small as what I kind of call like low touch opportunities. It could be something as high touch opportunities. But if we're if I could break down the framework even more, I'd also get really clear on what the client is trying to accomplish. And I say that because I've recently been in conversations with individuals, and when I get to say, like, what is it that you are trying to accomplish? And I hear the phrase, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to figure out, I don't know. I recently had a coach, John, that said to me, if you had to know, what would it be? Like, if you had to know. And when I started interjecting that, when people said, like, well, I just don't know. And I said, but if you had to know, what would it be? 10 out of 10 times I get an answer. And so like getting clear on like what does your client specifically want to do? What is the problem they're trying to solve? Rarely, if a problem doesn't exist, we're not looking for a solution, right? We're not looking to fill all this free time that we have. But there's a clear problem or there's something that's been brought to our attention and we're looking to alleviate a pain typically. So then I would do that needs assessment. I would capture information from the group. Then I would identify budget, right? Like what realistically do we have to work with? What's the time frame we're willing to commit? And what's our preferred level of involvement? Right? Do we want something that can kind of stand on its own, or do we really want to own something, build something from the ground up? And then what does success look like? I love asking this question because success is such a subjective term and we all have kind of our own definition in various situations. But asking, your client, hey, what does success look like? I recently had a group tell me, hey, I just want to offer something. Like people are asking, and I just want to offer something. And you know what? If it's impactful, that's a bonus. If it's not, like that's okay. But I just need to start and offer something. And it's like, great. Now we know what success looks like. We are on the same page. So what all these things do is they help level set expectations. They create more efficient meetings between you and your client. And they project what's likely going to be scoped at a more realistic level. And so because I often find we're not curious enough to ask more clarifying questions, that's when we kind of interject our own opinions, ideas, preferences, and it just makes it sometimes harder to get things accomplished. And then here's the thing that I don't think we often do enough is identify what your client, like what that specific individual is trying to accomplish. Because as a consumer, right, we are consumers. We are consumers in a variety of areas. We are always looking through the lens of what's in it for me, right? So as my child asks like, hey, can we get ice cream tonight? You know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about how is this going to affect me, right? You're probably going to be up later. We're probably going to have a harder time getting down to bed. So people are always looking at it from that lens. So if you can specifically ask your client, the person you're talking to, hey, what is it that you are trying to accomplish? How is this going to help your position, right? That starts to really anchor things down. And then figuring out how can this be tied to organizational goals? Because what we've seen is that when budget cuts come, anything that is not anchored or not tied to, hey, how is this helping the organization, the company advance, is the first thing to get cut. So I really think if you are able to do that, that will give you then a solid roadmap to say, okay, where do we go from here? And then, John, I'm a big fan of visuals. So I typically like to draw like 4 quadrants, right? So you've got now like high touch on the x-axis, high impact on the y-axis. And then you're just plotting information that the client gave you to see, okay, here are maybe 2 to 3 options that would be the best for you.
Yeah, I absolutely love the way you're drawing out the direct way that an expense turns into an investment.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the employers I've talked with, and then the most successful brokers I've worked alongside, draw that. It's not even a dotted line. It's a direct line from the dollars you put into this program and the dollars you're getting out. So the latest data that I have seen, Harvard Business Review cites that around 11 to 12% of total payroll expense is being lost due to a lack of productivity or burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And I would posit to anyone who would view professional development as just a recreational expense inside of the organization, that actually, if you can get up to the 100% productivity for employees, because of how valued they feel, they're not only going to stay instead of leave, they're going to do more and better work. And back to the point of staying or leaving, the data I'm seeing is that upwards of 60% of employees are going to go where the best total benefits package is going to be. You can only give so much pay, you can only give so much health benefits, but adding into this menu of options, this collection of options and benefits for employees, is what makes them feel valued all around. Obviously, we could go into the math behind things a ton, but I love the way you drilled down on what is it they really want to accomplish. Are they needing to get more middle management? Are they needing to find out who's going to be the executive level? Are they simply needing to make sure that their support staff is doing their very best all together, doing the very hard work that keeps the glue of the organization together? It starts with people feeling valued and them knowing they have the opportunity to grow.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
to the point of growing, I want to hear more about your concepts of breaking apart professional development into this whole person development, because that really piques my interest, because I believe that who I am outside of work impacts who I am at work.
Yep.
And so the whole person development is very, very interesting to me. Kind of define that for me, and how would you support an employer wanting to implement this sort of a protocol?
Yeah, absolutely. So we define whole person development really as this belief that you were made to show up as one person. So as you think about all of kind of the things that make up who you are, bringing them together under one umbrella. So that could be your personal growth, that could be your professional growth, that could be your spiritual growth, your financial growth. I mean, I've had people continue to like add silo, add silo. It's like, yeah, just bring it all to the table, right? It's like the table is endless. Bring it all here. And so what we have seen is there are fewer safe spaces for people to be able to show up and to be one Kristen, not I'm work Kristen, or I'm mom Kristen, or I'm Kristen on the softball field, or I'm Kristen in my place of worship, but I'm just Kristen. And I'm got all these competing things underneath the surface, like goals and situations, and I'm just trying to figure out like, right, to your point, how to not get burnout, how to not be so completely exhausted. And when we're trying to live in different kind of silos or different versions of ourselves, it's not sustainable. And it doesn't really allow us to fully reach our potential because we're trying to figure out, okay, what can I say and do in this situation and what can't I do? And so, with us creating these spaces for people to be able to leverage this concept of whole person development, it allows for you, as you're maybe chasing that job promotion, as you're elevating on a corporate ladder, to not lose sight of, well, what are my values? Right? What have I said to be so foundational to who I am? How would this impact my family? Right? As if I put in more time here, what would this mean for maybe my generosity level? That's really important for me. What would this mean for maybe my volunteering? Like I've been really impactful and really committed to my time in my place of worship. How would that fit into it? And so when you have a group of individuals that are intentionally prioritizing every area of their life, they're supporting you, they're keeping you accountable, they're championing you, they're holding you in those really low moments, and they're like patting your back on those really high moments. It really does allow for you then to step out and be John, the husband, the dad, the leader at work, the guy who's lifting weights in the gym and all of that. And you're able to just stand true in that versus, man, like who am I right now? So when we have been able to do that, we do that through our mentoring programs and we do that through our leadership development programs. And we just want people to know like there is a space for you to come without judgment, without shame, to be able to express everything you need to and really to kind of to connect the dots. And so we believe it starts in relationships. And then we believe beyond that, it goes into that self-awareness piece. Right. So as you are able to show up and recognize, hey, I am a work in progress. And there are things that I want to continue to achieve. I want to continue to grow. And especially in the past couple months, we really have laid the foundations for a new vision beyond just growth. We really want to create transformation. And we have seen that be possible when individuals are able to prioritize multiple areas of growth at the same time. Right? Kind of if you think about a caterpillar going to a butterfly, that caterpillar, that whole caterpillar has to be changed in order to transform. And so what we recognize is when leaders are given the safe space to do that, it really will impact every area of their life. And it is something to where it's almost not able to be contained. Right, John, when you are able to prioritize, you being a dad and a husband and a leader at work and all of that, it's just a natural overflow then that's how you live it out.
Yeah, that's amazing. The brain and body grow only when they are pushed to the point of failure, because
Mhm.
then they adapt and say, hey, I need to be able to improve enough to the next time not fail, or at least eventually not fail when I'm being put to the test. But you can't get to that point of failure in an unsafe space, because you're feeling too much at risk, or indeed, in many cases, failure's not an option. But I love how you have used the term relationship and connection with a way to create that safety.
Mhm.
Because when people feel safe and they know that safety is not go ahead and try, but it's go ahead and fail. You're
Mhm.
safe to fail here, because when we fail, we then are able to adapt and evolve in this growth and this transformation, as you have mentioned. So thanks for breaking that down. I love the concept of showing up as you truly are, wherever you are. And that is deeply, deeply impactful to productivity and health all around.
Yeah.
Now, Kristen, we're going to wrap up here in just a moment, but I'd love to hear your closing thoughts on anyone that might still be kind of learning and they're not exactly sure if this is for them or for their client, if they want to bring this up. What's your what's your 30-second compelling reason that someone really needs to take a few laps on this and perhaps invest some dollars into
Mhm.
their people to find that ROI of professional and whole person development?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a stat I came across recently, and it's been hard to get out of my head. It's when employees have access to professional development, it makes them 15% more engaged, 34% more likely to stay at an organization, and 58% more satisfied with their job. I didn't even break down like what type of professional development. It was access to professional development. So start there and really say, okay, if we could start something so small, maybe it's just trying to give people a stipend for professional development. Maybe it's having a content library. Maybe it's a subscription to masterclass, or encouraging people to download a podcast. Or maybe it is, hey, we really want to be intentional and go deep into a leadership development program. I would certainly encourage you to have a conversation with us. We feel like we've really nailed down the framework, and over the 500 graduates that we've had, 98% of people feel safe to be vulnerable and candid. 93% are more self-aware, 92% relate to others better, and 66% are more lonely at their organization. So it really does start, I think, with one, people feeling valued, feeling seen, and just having, I would say, access to something. It is a great place to at least feel like, okay, this is a smaller bite that we can take off. And so that's what I would say.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We have healthcare and we have access to healthcare. It's
Mhm.
not that we will always use it, but knowing that we have it makes us feel safer. And so I think that's a direct parallel. I'm very grateful for your breakdown. Love the data. I'm a big, big fan of data. I know our listeners are as well. Thank you for sharing that. Kristen, if someone is very impressed by you and by Edge and everything that you're doing, how might they actually connect directly with you? Where do they go? What do they do next if they want to learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for this opportunity, John. So, certainly you can head to our website, edgementoring.org. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Kristen Campbell. My email is kristen@edgementoring.org. I would certainly be remiss if I didn't say our fall leadership development class is kicking off in August. Enrollment is open for it now. As I said, people are always thinking from the standpoint of like, what's in it for me? So you got to always thinking about what's in it for your client. Your client's got to always be thinking about what's in it for their employees. But kind of from a broker standpoint, as you're thinking about, well, Kristen, what's in this for me? We love partnerships. I'm going to spend money somewhere. I'm either going to spend it in ads to try to get people into our leadership development programs, or I'm going to spend it through our partnerships. And I would certainly rather do it in relationships, because again, that's what I believe we've been designed for. But our Fall Compass cohort, it's a 3-month program. 12 modules. People are put in with a cohort with a certified coach. And at the end of it, there's a professional education certification. So certainly love to connect with anybody, especially to be able to equip some of your audience with those finer details as they have clients that really are ready to take leadership development and kick it up a notch.
Thanks so much, Kristen. And we will make sure and include all of the contact and links and everything in our show notes. So please feel free to look down there if you are one of those individuals needing and wanting to get connected with Kristen and the whole incredible team at Edge Mentoring. Thank you so much for listening all the way through to the end. And if you are hearing this now, Would you please like and subscribe our podcast? We'd love for you to share it on LinkedIn, all your social. If you find value here, please share that value. We love to continue to produce what you want. So if you have anything that you really need to learn or you're wanting us to research for you and present, just go ahead and email us at hello@remodelhealth.com. We would be happy to take all your questions and build out a whole episode specifically around what it is that you want. But for today's episode, we have concluded. I just want to tell you thank you so much for learning alongside us. And we're so excited to continue to revolutionize benefits together.